Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Redseapodcast. Finally, an episode that comes right after a game, and finally, an episode in where Gav can join me once again. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. Definitely happier to be talking about a win after the way that performance was going for the longest time.
Yeah, it looked like 70 minutes of absolute disaster, and then El Cabe scored not only a historic goal for the season, but a historic goal for him as well, as he is now officially our top European scorer of all time with 51. And yeah, first thoughts about the game in general.
I mean, really, really bad, like you said, for 80 odd minutes, 75 minutes. Yeah, I think Solakis and the defense, the back line, those were definitely the bright spots for most of the match. Porto, for their part, didn't challenge a lot either. I thought that for the most of the game, it was a pretty low quality affair from both sides. But definitely Solakis made a couple of big saves. The defense was solid. That gave us the foundation to go forward. And then it was just, at the end there, being opportunistic and taking our chances. You know, that the goal, Muzakitis not giving up on the play when, the defender takes the ball off of him and then there's a little scrum and it's free and he's there and ready to hop on it. That's huge. And El Kabi, for his part, had a pretty awful game, but he tucked it in when it mattered. And that's all you can really ask for from your striker, from your leader up front. So, you know, all things considered, it's a great win. I think that these sorts of games tend to tell you a lot more about a team's character than the Braga game, for example, right? Because it's one thing when you can get things going and it's flowing well and you're scoring goals, but to be able to win when it's ugly and when you're struggling and when you're missing players. We didn't have Gelson Martins. We had to start Chiquinho on the wing. Um, you know, Valde and Masuras. Unfortunately, Valde actually played well and got injured. We were just kind of ramshackle at the front, but we made it work somehow. And then even late in the game, I still don't know if that second goal was actually offsides. It didn't look offsides to me, but even though it didn't count, counts in my book because great pass from Solakis, great finish, great composure from Yaremchuk, who is continuing to make a case for why he still belongs in the squad. So I think my main takeaway is just the character of this team. It wasn't a great performance, but they won, and you can't really argue with the result because I think they did more to win than Porto did.
Definitely, especially with that late charge, as you implied as well. Like that last 20 to 25 minutes, we more or less deserved the win. All regards to Yaremchuk, it's also not really easy to just dispatch uh, a keeper like Diogo Costa like that because as incredible as the pass was, his run I think was even more impressive given the context at least. And for me, it wasn't offside either. But as long as the result doesn't really change, uh, I'm fine with it, and I'll be more than happy as well if we are witnessing another case of not even a Vicente Bora, like even a bit worse than Vicente Bora, a very solid role player like Yaremchuk is paid to be here. I'll be more than happy to just keep
I,
him
I
around.
would I would compare him to Jovetic. I mean, look at the first part of the season he had last year. Granted, he was better than Yaremchuk, but he came into his own later in the season. He was persistent, had the right mentality. I think you can say the same sort of thing about Yaremchuk. Uh, Even Velde as well, he looked very positive today. The fact that these guys want to stay here and continue to play through the adversity, regardless of what they do on the field, even if they don't end up panning out, you can respect the mentality and the perseverance, which again, that's super important in a team, and that's how you win games like today.
And again, do not solely focus on mediocre and negative performances. We're talking about two players that, unlike an Oliveira, are relatively unproblematic as well. Sure, Yaremchuk refused an offer to leave to Italy and go to Venezia. I'm pretty sure it was. It was a loan with an option to buy. But if he starts performing, I'm not really going to be mad that he refused the offer. And regards to Velde, uh, maybe it all did get to him because Christ above, even if it was uh, an intended step by Otavio, which you pointed out, I didn't even notice at the start. It's very unlucky to see him just go in guns blazing to what I can recall the best performance, or what was looking to be like the best performance of his time here, and then to just go off with an injury, which hopefully, not only for Velde, but for our sake as well, with Panathinaikos coming up, it's not for too long. Because even with Zelson, at least reportedly healthy enough to play, Zelson after an injury is always a worry. So yeah, we can't really afford to lose. Another one of our wingers. To focus more on another point of view, Jolakis coming off. I did I did go on Porto show a few days ago. It's on the profile for those of you who haven't seen it. And the first thing I mentioned regarding the team was with how much momentum Jolakis would go in this game, especially after that penalty save, and not only with the two crucial saves and the almost assist that he had to Yaremchuk, just proved me right completely. And with my 1-0 prediction as a win for us, the team just showed me that I know this team very fucking well.
Yeah, I mean, Solakis, it's he's such a unique player. I mean, obviously we can sit here and talk about how elite he is. I think that goes without saying. Um, but I don't think I've ever seen a goalkeeper be able to will a team on and be a momentum player like Kostas Solakis is. And like you talk about the penalty save last game, the penalty save versus Twente, any of the other heroics that he's come up with, even today. I mean, it really seems like he's able to change the tide of a game from goal, which is remarkable and speaks to his talent. That save at the end on Fabio Vieira, I mean, he was inconsolable, and I don't blame him because it was there's nothing better he could have done there. I don't know how he manages to get an arm up that close to goal with a shot hit that well, but again, I mean, he genuinely might be the most talented player we've ever had. Granted, we might see what Kostulas and Mozakidis turn into, but right now, as far as pure talent and ceiling, I think it has to be Solakis from what we've seen. He's incredible, and genuinely, I'm going to continue arguing the fact that he's a top 10 goalkeeper in the world. I don't see the argument for him not being in that conversation.
I mean, even stat wise, with a report that came out, was it about a week ago now, I guess? He's out of the keepers that are outside the top five leagues, he is the most ready, even stat wise. So it's not just what we see. But to give credit where it's due, as I love to do even with opponents, I think that today we saw the two most talented young keepers in Europe right now, maybe even the world. And it was a point that I did bring up that it would more or less be a game of form for the defense and the keepers. And again, I got proven extremely right because, as much as I'd love to credit El Gabi because it was a very historic goal, as you said, he didn't have the best of games, and it was more or less defensive disorganization that did lead to him excellently converting that goal.
Yeah, I mean, That was really the difference today between the two teams. I think Olympiacos maintained their composure better than Porto. You even saw with some of the body language towards the end, even before we scored the goal, which team looked like they were locked in it to win it, and which team looked frustrated and aloof. And once that goal got scored, you knew there was no way Porto were going to come back and get a goal because they just looked defeated. So I mean, like you said, I think you can give a lot of credit to Porto defensively. I think they did a really good job at keeping our attack what it was. I mean, arguably only having two starting attacking players, but you play who's in front of you. They did a pretty good job for most of the game. But when push came to shove, again, the mentality thing, it says a lot that our guys were able to.
There he is.
I mean, I understand that to an extent. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were pathetic. I think definitely it looks like there are some issues, um, maybe locker room wise or in the squad as far as um, you know the psyche goes. They did look. You compare this performance to when we played Porto in the Champions League. I want to say that was 2019 or 2020. There was a massive difference in the mentality between the
2020,
two.
2-0 loss in the draw.
And they basically ran us off the park. I mean, that 2-0 was a very gracious result to Olympiacos because we were very bad that day. But on the other side of that, Porto were very good. It was a weird vibe on and off the field from what I saw today. I tuned in a little late because I had a meeting come up, and I was like, Dragao was empty. Dragao was quiet. It was just it was an I don't know what's going on with Porto in general, but yeah, it was an interesting vibe. Um, and again, I think for most of the game it was very even Porto being the better side. But towards the end, I mean, we just pulled through in a way that I don't think you can dispute as far as the result.
And to your point here, because that's exactly what you brought up, but we were miles ahead in stability and keeping our composure. I want to credit another personal performance, and that's Panos Rechos and David Garmo just completely neutralizing what we both pointed out as Porto's biggest threat, and that, of course, is someone who came off in the 85th, I think, a bit after our goal, at least as far as I remember. And the play that I will uh, immediately call back to is at the first second minute of the game where Rechos just bumps into someone, just completely knocks him down. And I think maybe it is because Porto are in a more or less chaotic state right now with the coach change and all that. And as you said, the Dragao being completely empty, which I really don't know why either. Uh, but we did have the mental game as well, as it seems. And for once, maybe a switch has once again or will once again be flipped. I think we had the upper hand on set pieces as well, both
Yeah.
defensively and attackingly.
Speaking on Carmo specifically, I mean, obviously we've talked at length about Lorenzo's and the rejuvenation that he's gone through really before our eyes in the past 8-10 months or so, dating back to last season's European campaign. He was fantastic again, deservedly our captain. I mean, so lucky that he's figured it out with Olympiacos again. Long may it continue. But David Carmo specifically, you and I talked about this on the side before the match. I said before the match I would have rather Biancone started there. You said you would have rather Pirola started there. I think either of those before the match would have been like, yes, I probably would have felt more comfortable. But the one thing I did think about before the game was, well, he's playing his old team, the old team that didn't really want to give him a chance. So in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe we're going to see a performance out of him today. I don't know if that was the motivator or not, but this definitely was, I think, one of his best performances of the season. Um, Rock at the back. I mean, he looked like how he looked last season. Like you weren't going to get past him. He was winning all the headers. Weren't any silly, lazy mistakes. It was a very clean performance from David Carmo. So props to him. Again, if he can find that form, we have a real partnership there with obviously depth behind both of them in Biancone and Pirola. Um, but him specifically, we talk a lot about the other guys, but he's had a rough go of it this year. I think today was definitely. I hope that he's turning the corner.
I think it is exactly what you said that we saw last season, David Carmo, and again to play devil's advocate a bit and to double down on your point that our centre back depth is better than it's been for a lot of years now. That even if Pirola or Biancon started, I still think that we would have been fine. But Carmo deserves a massive shout, whether it was because he played for his old team, whether it was because he was playing a European game. Credit needs to be given where it's due, and credit needs to be given to Musakitis as well. As you said, never gave up on any, almost scored a crazy goal if it was
Yeah,
just a bit more power heavy, the shot.
the
And
only highlight of the first half for Olympiacos was that Muzakiti shot.
the only highlight in general was the Musakitis shot. Uh, but yeah, insane game for him as well. Just it's what I keep saying. Form isn't permanent. Just it people just need that snap to be back to the top of the game. And we all know how utterly talented Musagitis is. And just such a good game. Uh yeah, I did notice this. That Porto's right back was not a right back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the club in general. Like, I don't. It kind of reminded me of Olympiacos 2 seasons ago in Europe and in general. I mean, it just seemed like
In
there was.
general.
It just seemed like there's something off. I don't know the story behind that, but it would be interesting to hear um, why that is. Because like again, it was just, and I don't think that Porto were horrible today at all. I mean, I thought for most of the game they were better than us, but it seemed like they were teetering on the edge the entire game, and then when the goal went in, it was just like complete collapse. I mean, lucky for us that we're playing them now because obviously they got some good results in Europe earlier in the season. You can look at that United game. Um, but yeah, it was a strange atmosphere for the game in general. Yeah, and it reminds me of what we've seen with Olympiacos a lot recently before last season and Mendilibar coming in.
It's as you said, it's what we saw 2 seasons ago. And I am trying to see, do you have any idea where we are standing wise now?
I believe we're ninth or 10th, but we're like a point off of top eight.
We
So I
are
mean,
13th
13th.
given how results are, but it's crazy how close this whole table is. We are 13th and 2 points away from third.
That's that's crazy. I mean,
We, if we'd beaten Lyon, we may have even been uh, third
the
in the
crazy thing
table.
is, I mean, as many missed opportunities as we've had this campaign, if we win next week, I think we're in. Like, I think a lot would have to happen to keep us out of the top eight. Um, but yeah, I mean, speaking on the table in general and just how close it is, I think looking at across the three European competitions, this new league phase, in my opinion,
It's
worlds better
amazing.
than it's
It's
worlds better. I mean, I you look at some of the big teams. I mean, this is getting into the Champions League, but like City might genuinely not qualify for the round of 16 or 24, whatever it is. I mean, there's so much more parity now that you have to play an even schedule, and you're not, you can't just get lucky with a draw and get, the worst team in the competition twice. I think in general this is a much better format. Um, and I
But
think that
how wrong we were. Jesus Christ.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people had a reason to be skeptical of it because, again, this kind of came through as the compromise for the Super League. Um, but I think it's a success. I'm totally for it. I think it makes these games a lot more interesting. I'm looking forward to next week. I thought it was super cool seeing the last match day in the Conference League. I can't wait, till we have that for Europa League, Champions League. Like I think this new format is a resounding success.
I think it's the best thing they've gotten right, modern football wise. Speaking of the table, as you said, we have a massive chance for top eight. Seeing what we did today, and God forbid, hopefully we're a healthy squad. I pretty sure we'll beat Karabakh and finish in the top eight. But to your point and how insanely close it is, there is a big chance Porto don't qualify now.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
thank God that was us that won, because we would have been down there.
yeah, I mean, you look at some of the teams that might miss out. I mean, Twente, they're out of the race right now. Hoffenheim are out of the race. Slavia Prague were playing Palk right now and have been a regular in Europe. They're out of the race. There's a lot of big teams that, it's like you said, as close to the table being one bad result, which is why I think it's huge that we've only lost one game. We played 7 matches in Europe this season. We've only lost one
And
of
it
them.
was, I think it was even better that it was the first.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even you look at that performance, right? It wasn't a horrible performance. Lyon were just on another level. So, I mean, again, getting back to the stability of Olympiacos, getting back to the mentality of Olympiacos. I mean, to go through 7 games in Europe, only lose to one. We can talk about the fact that we've only scored 6 goals in 7 games, which is not what you want to see. But we've also only conceded the 3. I mean,
And
again,
we've
getting back.
conceded one from open play, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. What was no, no, no? We scored no 2. Because
Two? Conceded
Leon
two,
had
yeah.
one penalty and one from open play, and then the Rangers goal was also open play.
Wasn't it? Yeah, maybe it was open play. Maybe I'm mistaken. Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like a
but
breakaway one-on-one with Solakis.
yeah. But we've kept three back-to-back clean sheets. That's no easy thing to do in the
Well,
Europa League, especially.
and you consider that 2 of those 3 goals were from the first match day. We've conceded 1 goal in 6 matches in Europe,
Yeah,
playing some good teams. Like we have not had it like some cushy schedule. I mean, remarkable stuff from our guys, and looking forward to next week as well. Um, Karabakh already eliminated. Yeah, they've
and
Karabakh has scored as many goals as us, so they've
no,
just conceded 17.
I think it's less. I
No,
think
they've
Karabakh
scored.
they've
I'm
scored the
looking at it
same.
right now. They have 6.
Yeah.
They 6 scored, but 17 conceded. They have the second worst defense in the entire
Christ above.
competition. So if
Who
we cannot
is the
beat the brakes off of them
worst?
next week,
Ludogorets. Yeah, and as you said, they have nothing to play for.
mm-mm. And it's
Yeah,
it's in
Ludogorets is the worst attack
yeah.
with three.
I mean, it's in Karaiskakis. We can get revenge for 2022. I mean, not 2022, 2023. Got
Magazine that game.
you got to take it. I mean, it's right in front of us. We're in a great position. I also think too. You're looking at the table. We only have the +3 goal differential. I think next week you got to go out and you got to try to beat Karabakh by like 4 goals. I mean, you just got
Yeah.
to tear those guys apart if you can. But yeah, I mean, this genuinely is probably our biggest win in Europe since last season. I mean, going to Porto, even with all the stuff going on with them, and winning a match, keeping a clean sheet, that's big stuff.
And again, this win alone may have opened the door for us to not have to worry about Europe for a month.
Hmm.
Play
I
Europe
mean,
in March again.
and PAOK and Panathinaikos will. So I mean that'll be huge for domestic as well. Whether it's the cup, whether it's the league, we'll have two less games that we have to play. Uh, that would be massive for our chances to win and retain the league, which is also important. Getting back to the point we've been talking about the past couple of months, right now Olympiacos is in prime position to qualify directly for the Champions League if we win the league. And with this win today, adding more coefficient points because we've secured top 24. So we get a coefficients boost. I want to say it's like 2 points coefficients boost, and then we'll get more if we qualify top 8.
It's top 24, then it's a boost on top 15, which I think we've secured as well.
We have not secured
And we've
top
not secured
15.
top
The lowest
I
we
think
can finish is 22nd,
to
but
Jesus
we've
Christ, okay.
secured knockouts.
Then I think it is a boost if we secure top 15, and then of course it's a boost if we head straight to the round of 16. Uh, we'll do ratings tomorrow. You'll give me yours as well. And just because I know I have you for barely any more time, uh, any thoughts about the two boys coming in? The left back, and of course, hopefully, Horta.
I'm going to be honest, I know practically nothing about the left back. So I mean, I have to watch some highlights on him. You've been high on him, and I trust your opinion. So I'm hoping that he can come in and push Ortega immediately. Not that I think Ortega's had a bad season, but just having competition and competent cover behind him is always good to have, especially as we saw last season. Left back became an issue towards the end of the European campaign. So depth there is always a good thing. Um, Andreotta, on the other hand, I know a lot about. So I'm really, really, really hoping that that gets over the line. I mean, it would be huge to be able to have a competent midfield rotation that includes 4 players who could all start for us on any given day. I mean, that to me would be the biggest thing. And he also does provide more cover for that front 3/4 because he can play in the 10, and you could put him out wide like you had to do today with Chiquinho, even though that's not his position. I would trust him more than Yorgos Masuras on the wing. So I mean, he gives you back up there as well. But again, as we've talked about a lot today, it's the mentality too, and the fit that he brings. He was one of the most important players last season to our title push, and even the comments that came out after the Maccabi game. You want a guy like that in your locker room. So aside from the obvious talent that he brings to the pitch, I would be super excited to have him back just from a personnel perspective.
Regarding Gortatu, of course, focus on the very well-known player first. There should be more updates by tomorrow or Saturday, very hopefully, but nothing is secured just yet. And it is also, aside what you said, which is of course the self-evident thing, it's also a huge chance to not only send Chiquinho back to his natural position, because Orta is way more comfortable at the 10, as you mentioned, rather than Chiquinho. But it's also a chance to give Muzakitis some rest as well. And it's such a better chance to manage a talent like Muzakitis and not completely destroy him and burn him out. And of course, it's a guy that, as you said, will be a gem for the locker room and will just be such a good addition, such a needed addition, and hopefully something that will open the door for Oliveira to fuck off, which is also a much needed thing to happen. Regarding Bruno, which I will try to call him Bruno as much as I can to not butcher the man's last name because I'm pretty sure I did when I first mentioned him. Uh, He's a very different player than Ortega, which is the main thing for me. He's a completely different player than Ortega. I think for the research that I've done, I'm pretty sure that he can push him, not necessarily immediately take his position, but I'm sure that he can push him. And worst case scenario, if Ortega does end up leaving this summer, I think with him and Athanasiou, we're covered, at least for a start, which is again another one of the most important things for me. As I said, and as you said many times, the depth is a big problem, and the more we cover, the absolute better. And to finish off, sadly, on a negative, surely he needs to go, right?
I mean, our
And
whole the conversation we had last summer when we were talking about who to keep and who to get rid of was him being a depth option and a guy that you keep around the club because he's been here a while and he obviously brings the club culture and can be a locker room guy. He hasn't really panned out in any sort of way this season. I mean, granted, it doesn't seem like he's had a bad attitude about it, which is
no,
a
no, no.
positive and we're happy about. But I don't know if it's Bochum because again that rumor has come up, or if it's someone else in Greece. I think he needs a change. It's not working out here. I can't remember the last time he had a really good performance playing for Olympiacos. He's gotten limited playing time this season, so you know we tried it.
It's
It didn't
it's
work.
meant with no disrespect at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's
it's best for everybody. I mean, he should also, he's in his 30s now. He has limited time left in his career. Why not go somewhere where you can play every week, right? Like that's you think about it from the player's perspective as well. He's just not offering anything to us right now, and we're not able to give him the chance to play because of that. So, I don't. Maybe he goes. Here's an idea. Upload. You can go team up with El Arabi. He'll have to play every week. They're in Europe. Opportunity right there. I don't know, maybe something to think about, but I definitely think that he could go play somewhere else, whether it's in Greece, whether it's somewhere in Europe. There's got to be loads of teams that would give him uh, the time and the opportunity he deserves, and that he would be able to contribute to.
it's exactly what you said. It's absolutely no disrespect, and it would be the absolute best for both parties, not just us. Uh, Give me your shout for MVP, and then I won't delay you for any longer.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
I said give me your shout for MVP, and I
Oh,
won't delay you any longer because I know you have to go.
you have to give it to Tsolakis. I mean, there's several guys that I think played really well today and contributed, massively to the win. I think you could talk about Karmo Retsos, you could talk about Muzakitis or even El Kabi, even though he had a really bad game in general, he scored the goal. But I would have to say Solakis was the one guy today that, you know, if it weren't for several of the saves that he made, we don't win this game. So I think you have to give it to him.
I'm more or less in full agreement with that, but I think if I had to give a second shout for MVP, it would be probably David Carmo, as you said earlier. Ratings wise, I need to be more consistent with it. That's on me. But ratings wise, usually stuff comes out a day after the games with both of our ratings and our MVP. So that will be on the Instagram and the Twitter. Thank you very much for joining me again for the very limited time you had. Also,
Yeah, no,
uh,
I was glad I was able to make it work. Got a little opening
yeah,
in the day, so got to take advantage.
yeah, when I'm done with exams and stuff, we need to figure out better timing to be both on the show.
For sure.
Talk to you soon, man, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. And go check out everything in the description as always. Thank you.
awesome. See you guys.